All right, in part two of this video, we're going to take a look at using memory with your chat applications. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the same app that we created in the first part of this video, where we were chatting with one of the guidebooks for N8N. And so memory is extremely important because you want to be able to have some continuity with with the person using the app. So if they mention something earlier in the conversation, you want to be able to keep a record of that so you can actually reference it later in the conversation. So it's really, really helpful. And if you've been working with Flowise, you know that they do have a great tool called buffer memory that you can use without having to worry about installing any kind of long-term memory. The only thing about that is that it's great for development, but it's terrible for production because obviously the more people who use your app, it's actually going to drain or take away from the memory, the RAM resources of your server or the machine that you're using. So it's great for development, but you don't want to use it for your production. But if you are using it for development, we basically have two different types of memory. You have your basic memory that's found in the Flowise modules, and then you have your buffer window memory, where you can actually just record or just save a part of the chat history and insert that into your context window for your prompts. And so, yeah, buffer memory is the most easiest type of memory. You don't need to set anything up because it's already set up for you. Now, once you start moving from development to production, then you'll need something else. And so the first solution that you can use is you can use ZEP long-term memory. When you install ZEP, it works just as well. It has both long-term memory and it has a vector store that comes automatically, that comes with the entire ZEP package. The only thing you need is your authentication key, and you'll be up and running, as well as the base URL for your ZEP instance. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to see exactly how the ZEP memory works. And so we're going to ask our chatbot just a few questions about our document. And the first one is, what are the steps to building a N8N workflow? And so it's going to give us an answer. Okay, so based on the provided context, it's pretty fast. And so then we're going to ask it, how can we create custom JavaScript nodes? So we're going to go ahead and ask that question. And this is all going to become a part of our chat history so that later when we can go in and we can actually see this in the chat history logs, as well as have it reflected in our future chats with the application. So the next one is, how do I build an API endpoint? And it gives us some of the answers from the document. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and actually see this in the back end, and then we're going to show you what it looks like in the front end as well. So let's go ahead and go to our ZEP sessions, and if we actually go back to the module, we want to make sure that our session ID, we have the session ID. So this is 45300. So let's go ahead and let's click on 45300 and see that you can see how it is saving the chat history. So this is our question, what are the steps, and then this is the answer, and then this is the second question, how to create custom JavaScript nodes, and then that's the answer, and then the final one was, how do I build an API endpoint, and then it gives us this answer. So it's showing us that it's actually recording the chat history. Now what we want to do is we want to actually see what's happening on the back end of our AI application. So for that, we actually need a monitoring application. And so within Flowise, I believe there's Langsmith. Then there's also Langfuse, and there is Lunary or LLM monitor. And so I believe we have LLM monitor set up. Let's see if, okay. So what it did not do is we did not actually record it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to enable that. I actually didn't have it enabled. So let's go ahead and enable it. Now in order to enable this, what you need to do is you need to click on settings, and then we want to analyze the chat flow. And let's go ahead and just save it. Okay. So right now it's turned off. So what we want to do is we want to turn it on, and we want to create our Lunary API key. Okay, and so now what we're going to do is we want to use the last question. What can I use as a database for my API? And we are going to ask the same question again. Okay. It's a rather long answer. So now what we want to do is we're going to go back to our ZEP sessions. We're going to refresh, and you can see this is the question and the answer. And because we turned on our LLM monitoring, we should see that reflected in the front end, in the monitoring. So let's go ahead and let's click on that, and you can see that this is essentially the inputs for our prompts. And if you scroll down, you can see that it's actually including the question and also the answer within our context window. So this is just another tool to be able to show you exactly what's happening on the back end when you actually use chat history. What happens is that over a period of time, the entire chat history, depending on how you set it up, gets put back into the context window. So if you don't have any caps, or if you don't have any settings on how much memory or how much of that chat history is being put into your context window, it'll just continue to be added to the prompt, to the input prompt. And so this is an example of what happens when you don't really have any limits on your chat history. What happens is that you increase your tokens, like your token count increases. Every time someone starts adding more and more to the chat history, that actually increases your input tokens, even if your output tokens are going to be basically the same. So that's something that's very, very important to keep in mind as you're developing and building your AI applications, is to make sure that you want to have some history that the chatbot, the application remembers, but you don't want to have all the history, because if you have, like, say, 100, 1,000 users, those tokens, those input tokens, are going to actually start racking up, and it's just going to increase your token costs. So it's something to be aware of when you're developing your applications. So the last option that we're going to be covering for memory is something called Upstash. And Upstash is a hosted solution for long-term memory management for your LLMs. And they have some pretty good pricing, I think, fairly good pricing for your data. And again, if you're going to use something like this, you want it to be easy and straightforward. And so Upstash is a popular option for that if you don't want to host it yourself. And so if we go back to our application, our chatbot, and we see that we are currently using Upstash, and if we just ask it a question, so we go ahead here, and then we ask it the same questions we asked it before, the other models. What are the steps? Okay, so it's giving us, let's see, let's make sure we save it. And then let's ask it again. Let's ask it the same question again, see what it says. Sometimes you're going to get different answers. Okay, so it's using the same collection. Let's ask it another answer, another question. This is why you want to test things all the time. Okay, so what we want to do is we always want to look at the prompts and see exactly what the prompts are doing. But it's giving us answers. So what we want to do now is we want to actually check to see if that's actually showing up in our Upstash dashboard. So if we go ahead here and then we click on refresh, we should get those questions and answers. And so one thing I don't like about Upstash is that it doesn't really give us, like, the UI isn't really the best for actually seeing what's been stored. So you just have to copy and paste it and see exactly what it's doing. But you can see that it's giving us it actually is recording the chat history. And then if we go back and we ask what questions did we ask previously, you can see that it actually remembered. So it actually remembered the chat history. So Upstash is very easy. It's a great tool. What I don't like about it is that I don't believe there's a way to actually, so there's no way right now to actually specify how much of the chat history, the previous chat history, you want to be put back into the prompt. And so it's super easy to use, but you cannot control how much. It'll just include the entire chat history, however long that is. So that's something that you want to definitely look at with Upstash. And that's why I also suggest looking at, for example, Zep, because you can actually control how much you want. Another thing that you can also do is you can create like multi-prompts. So instead of just saving the entire chat history, you can always use like a multi-prompt to basically enhance the answer rather than relying on chat history. But we might take a look at that in a later video. But yeah, this is long-term memory, and there's other solutions that are out there that you can use, but these are just some of the ways that you can actually manage your memory, and also, more importantly, manage your token costs, so it doesn't just explode, and get out of hand. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you in the next video.